Welcome back, guys. Chris here, and in this video, I want to talk to you about support and optimization for NetSuite. So first off, what does that mean? What do those terms mean? Let's break it down. We've got support. Support is the concept of I just want to be able to call somebody up or send an email to someone because I'm running into a problem or an issue or I don't know how to resolve something, and I want that contact line that I can reach out to debug or resolve whatever I am running into. That is support, very simple. Most people are familiar with that. Then you have optimization, which is really a few different things all bundled into one. So the first element of that is if that your implementation was done incorrectly or improperly, so there's just all kinds of mistakes or incorrect configurations in the system, resolving those and getting things back on track, that would definitely be included in optimization. You can also have instances, which is more apt for the name optimization, where you've got processes that are fine, they're working, they're not inoperational, but they're a bit inefficient. You could set up a workflow or a script that makes whatever that process is a little bit more efficient for your production or for your employees, etc. That's one element. The third element is the idea of bringing in new functionality. So that could either be a new feature that you realize you could use to expand your business, or you intentionally went live not including something. Like for inventory, you might have just set up your replenishment as reorder points, knowing that that's a simple gradient that you can start off with, and then when a little bit of time has passed, you're stable on the system, things are working fine, now you can attempt to implement MRP, which is a much more sophisticated system. That would even be recommended. That would be something where optimization can come in and add MRP and do the whole configuration and setup for that, or maybe field service management or CPQ or any of these other features I've talked about in my videos. That would be included in the optimization element of support and optimization. So as you can see, there's a lot of different things that can be included within support and optimization as a service. So now let's talk about what support and optimization options you have available to you. And the first and most obvious one to address would be Oracle support options. The first level of support that Oracle provides is just called basic support. And I wouldn't even really call that support. That's just you've purchased NetSuite software, no matter which version of it you get, and you automatically, just with the price of the software, it comes with things like suite answers, and you can put in tickets if your system is literally down and it's not even showing up on the database. There's certain things that you can put in requests for if your instance is completely inoperational, or you want to be able to access suite answers. That's all included as basic support. Then you have the second level, which is considered premium support, and that's really what you would consider just normal support, which is you've got someone you can call 24/7, no matter what's going on, what time, what day, holidays, etc. Something is critically wrong in the system, or you're running into a real problem, and you want to be able to reach out to someone and say, hey, my workflow is not doing what it should be doing. How can I resolve this? And they can try to walk you through that. So it's not the optimization element of it at all. It's just that support element. And I would say premium support is definitely a viable option for a lot of companies. It's not cheap necessarily, but it's also not too expensive. And it's basically an insurance policy. So if you don't have the budget or really the need for a full partner that is going to be handling support and the consulting work for that, then you might want to just have the ability to call and debug things if you run into those problems. And in that case, I would say premium support definitely might be an option for you. There's many instances where I would not recommend it, especially if you don't just need the support element, but you really need some optimization as well. But if you just want to be able to know peace of mind that that thing is there for you if you run into those problems, premium support can get you there. The next level of support is the infamous ACS, which stands for Advanced Customer Support. And ACS is something I've talked about in a lot of different videos. And frankly, I'm not going to rehash all of the problems with ACS. I did a 10-minute rant in my NetSuite News April 2025 video. So if you really want to know why is it so bad, you can absolutely check out that video. The simplicity of it is it's not good. The quality of service that they provide is very, very low, and they tend to just drag you through the mud in your attempt to get something, especially when you're looking more at the optimization side of things. You want to improve things in your system. The route to get there is so arduous. It's so time consuming and frustrating for the client and quite expensive all along the way that it is one of those services that I just cannot find a scenario where I would be able to recommend it. In every single situation, no matter low budget, high budget, these requirements, etc., I would always recommend something else than ACS. And I particularly want to note just one element of it because I'm going to round back on this a little bit later in the video, but ACS is not cheap. It is not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. And I usually don't talk prices in my videos because prices change. And frankly, in a lot of instances, I feel like it's just not the right place to talk about it. But in this case, I do want to make a specific mention of this because I think a lot of people are not even aware of the price tag that can come with ACS. So totally separate from the software cost and the implementation cost, when you're paying for ACS, it can range from anywhere from $20,000 a year, USD obviously. It can go over 100,000 depending on what you're actually getting out of ACS and the type of package you're getting. And I would say it's quite common because most businesses for NetSuite are in the small to mid-sized business range. So it is pretty common to have companies that are getting ACS in the end to get a contract where they're paying $40,000 to $60,000 a year. To pay that much for a service that is, in my opinion, almost useless for the amount of effort that it demands on your side, to then also be paying such a high price tag for such a low quality service, it's just, I could never recommend it for any client in any circumstance. I just don't think it's a good option to go with. With that in mind, what are your alternatives? If you do want a full support and optimization package, but ACS is off the table, what do you have as an option instead? There is the entire partner network that you can lean on for support services, and there are dozens of companies that provide the support. So let's talk about the categories of companies first off. So you have, and I've talked about this a lot in other videos, but in case you've missed those, there are solution providers. So solution providers are companies that have the ability to sell you NetSuite, the license itself. They can sell the product to you and implement it as well as provide support. And those are often your best choice or your best option for doing any kind of support and optimization service. Now, it really depends on the solution provider. They are not all created equal, but as a category of potential partners, those tend to be the best. An alternative in the ecosystem is alliance partners. The difference is where solution providers can sell the software themselves, alliance partners have the NetSuite license is sold by NetSuite, and then the implementation is dished off to the alliance partner. And when I talked about these two in my implementations video, I talked about them, the fact that really there are good and bad options for alliance partners as well as solution providers. So I'm not going to necessarily recommend one or the other. When it comes to support, I would not recommend alliance partners. And the reason is because the fact that NetSuite is selling the software, the alliance partner is not involved in the sale. And what is important about that is it means that when NetSuite sells the software, if there is a support and optimization option needed, NetSuite's going to sell ACS. They're not going to say, oh, we'll just go pay the alliance partner for their own support. NetSuite's going to say, no, you should get ACS. We're selling you NetSuite. We're also going to sell you ACS. And the alliance partner, because of that relationship, they can't bite the hand that feeds. So they can't say, no, don't go with ACS. They have to just, their hands are tied and they have to go, all right, whatever you sold, we'll do. So oftentimes, even though the alliance partner sometimes will provide a support service as well, because they can't sell it, it's not a big profit driver for them, and they tend to put less focus on their own support teams when they even have them in the first place. So for that reason, if I had on average, I'm not going to say in all cases, but on average, if you've got a solution provider or an alliance partner, the odds are the solution provider is going to put more attention and more focus on having a good support team because they're handling the entire cycle from purchase of the software to implementation to follow up and support. Whereas the alliance partner, oftentimes they have to push you over to ACS because that's what you were sold. So that's something to keep in mind. The third option you have available is independent consultants. Now, in my implementation video, I talked about the fact that I wouldn't recommend independent consultants because you're taking a huge gamble. If you're dealing with a one-man team, this is Steve the consultant who's working out of his basement, one person or even maybe 2 or 3 people as a small team, it is a big risk that your implementation could go poorly. There are some benefits, but the risk is very high when you're going with such a small team. When it comes to independent consultants, it's not quite the same situation because you're just delivering support and optimization services. 1 or 2 or 3 guys could do a perfectly reasonable job providing that service. Some of the independent consultants that are out there are just guys that have done it for 20 years. They're getting close to retirement and they only want to work 10 or 20 hours a week and they provide some support services. That might be totally fine for your requirements. And oftentimes, if you're dealing with just an independent consultant, you don't have to buy a whole package. You might be able to just do on a time and material, hour to hour basis. So while I wouldn't necessarily recommend that first, it's definitely a viable option. You can absolutely check out some of these just solo consultants that are around and see if they fit your requirements, if you like working with them, and if they have the knowledge to figure out whatever the problems that you are running into. The only thing I wouldn't recommend is if out of the support and optimization package, really what you're looking for is new features and integrations, add-ons, things like that. That is almost like mini implementations, and that's the kind of thing I would usually lean on a bigger consulting firm for, as opposed to going with some one-off independent consultant who maybe has never implemented field service management before, or they've only done 1 or 2 instances of an MRP. Maybe not the best guys to lean on for that kind of thing. So those are your option. Again, solution providers tend to be the best option. Alliance partners, in this particular case, I would not recommend them. And then sometimes independent consultants can be a great option if your budget is really limited or you maybe just want that personal relationship. That might be a great option. Now let me give you some tips on how best to choose your support partner. Let's say you've decided that you want to go with a solution provider. There's still dozens of different companies to choose from. So how do you best select what's going to be the best option for you? Tip number 1, and by far the most important, you want to choose a partner that has industry experience in your industry. So what that means is you don't want to just choose someone who knows NetSuite really well. You want someone who can talk the lingo and is very familiar with your exact industry. Now, you might be someone in e-commerce, you might be someone that's dealing with manufacturing, or you've got health and beauty products, you might be a gold mining exploration company. The range of businesses is so wide, and the best practices and the various configurations that can be done in NetSuite that will be ideal depending on the industry, it can vary wildly. If you're a salmon hatchery, that is completely different than some other company that's selling food and beverage products. You know, it's just wildly different. So you want to be able to talk to a consulting partner that when you start describing things in your lingo based on your industry and the various nuances to that, you want them to immediately go, yeah, we know exactly what we're talking about. We've dealt with 5 other companies that are exactly just like you, or ideally not just 5, but dozens. You want them to have that experience. And so the ways that you can test them on that is, first off, initially in the conversation, when you're trying to get a fit for, is this going to be a good partner? You want them to be able to talk your lingo. You want to be able to, if you're introducing aspects of your business that are relevant to your industry, you don't want to have to describe what that thing is to them. They should be able to go, yeah, we know how that works. That's fine. That workflow that's really important for you as a health and beauty product provider, and you're dealing with a co-manufacturer, totally. We've dealt that kind of workflow a million times, and they should be able to tell you what the best practices for that industry would be. You know it from your standpoint. They should know it from theirs, not just from a NetSuite configuration standpoint, but from an industry standpoint. So they should be able to talk or at least understand the lingo that you're describing, and they should be able to provide references on other businesses where they provide similar support or implementations in the exact same industry. I mean, literal names of companies that they're willing to say, we've done a good job with these guys. And ideally, those are companies you can reach out to and get a second reference on that expertise specifically. The second tip I have for you is getting someone in your time zone. There's a couple elements of this that are important. First off, getting someone in your time zone is just important because if you're working 9 to 5, you want to be able to contact someone and have them very easily accessible from 9 to 5, not they start in your day at 3 p.m. and they tend to end off at like 4 a.m. their time. A lot of support services tend to get overseas to the Philippines, India, Singapore sometimes. There's many that exist overseas. So there's that time element, and there's also just the element of the manners and the cultural mix. It's a little bit hard to describe, but you know it when you've dealt with it. If you're talking to someone who is in North America, and it doesn't have to just be in the US, there's a lot of good consultants that exist in Canada. If you're talking to someone in Toronto or Denver, it's just a different relationship than if you're communicating to someone who is in the Philippines or in India or Pakistan or one of these countries where the manner sets are different, the culture is different. Sometimes just the accent can be hard to navigate through. But even the literal spoken communication aside, there's just a familiarity and a normalcy when it comes to business practices that you'll find in the North American region if you're North American. If you're dealing with Europe, again, those can even be different from Europe to North America. If you're existing out of Germany or the UK, it might be good to find someone that's in the UK because there's going to be that blend of how you guys handle things. And especially when you're dealing with support and optimization, you tend to be, in many instances, a little frustrated, a little bit like you don't understand what's going on and you want to get something where you know it needs to be. You don't want to have language barriers. You don't want to have time barriers. You want to try to have things as smooth as possible. The third tip I have for you is make sure that whoever you go with, you're going to have a relationship with either one or just a handful of people. You don't want to have, for example, what you're going to run into with ACS, where the support reps are handled on a round robin basis. So if you call it one time, or if you call it a totally different time, you can get, and often will get, a completely different support rep. And that's frustrating because you have to reintroduce everything you're dealing with to that person. You have to establish the communication again, as opposed to just, I work with this company, and even at that company, maybe they have 500 consultants, but you've got your 2 or 3 guys that you always deal with. You've got a relationship, you like these guys, they know your business, they've done things for you before, and you can just hit the ground running. You don't need to reestablish every time you have a support ticket that you're putting in. That's another major aspect. The fourth aspect I would say is don't be price sensitive when you're dealing with support and optimization. So obviously for some companies, they have to look at budget constraints, and that's fine. In some cases, you might just want to go with Oracle's premium support because you can't afford a full support and optimization package. But unless you're in that case where you really are just priced out of any kind of advanced level support, if you're going to be going into that level of advanced support where you want support and optimization, do not be price sensitive. And what I mean by that is don't look at just the hourly rate and try to let that determine the quality of what you're getting. Because in some instances, you might have something where it looks expensive because, wow, these guys are charging $220 an hour. And that's way more than this option over here where it's only $160 an hour. So if you're comparing ACS to one of these $220 consultants, it might look like a much cheaper option. But in the end, how long is it going to take that cheaper consultant to get to that ideal state or that optimization that you're looking for? It could take them 2 or 3 times as long. If you've got a really skilled consultant that knows your industry and you've got a relationship with them and they can just move through things in a very rapid fashion, that higher price tag can easily be paid off with less time from you, meaning you don't need to explain your business and all your requirements to the person. They immediately understand what you're looking for, and they can even recommend things to you and say, oh, this is what you need, and this is exactly how you would do it in NetSuite. And don't worry, it's going to take us 40 hours. We'll get started on that immediately. That's the kind of thing that you're looking for. So even if the price tag looks higher, the end result of how much you're actually going to pay could be comparable, and even in some cases I would argue less, but at least comparable. So don't be price sensitive. Keep it in mind that you're looking for that quality, not the price tag. And the fifth and last tip that I have for you is just if you're looking at going with a support and optimization partner, you know you're going to go through that, select one, etc. I still recommend that you have someone in your organization that is going to be the point of contact between your organization and whatever support partner you have. So if you've got 30 people that are using NetSuite in your organization, generally not recommended to have 15 of your guys reaching out directly to your support partner because first off, as I mentioned earlier, it's better to have a close relationship with those support consultants. So you want not just a couple people on their side that are contacting that but a couple people on your side so you can start that relationship. So the same thing applies where if you've got these 15 people, don't have them have an easy a way to contact the support team directly. Have them have to go through one or maybe two people in your organization that can then be the contact point for that support team. That can also be helpful because even if you don't have the money to have a full-time administrator, at least if you can have someone who's like the most experienced NetSuite guy on your side, then when a lower user who doesn't know, I don't know how to reset the access point or the password for a new user, it's like, okay, fine. Jim at least knows how to do that. So instead of wasting hours with your support partner, go to Jim first. If Jim can answer the question, he will. If he can't, then Jim will reach out to the support partner and then he can figure out, he can be in touch with them, get the answer to that and pass that information or refer you whatever information they provided. So that is my recommendation. If you know you need to go with that option, try to at least have one person who's your responsible individual on your team. And that's it for support and optimization. If you have any further questions on this subject, feel free to reach out to me by email. As I've said in previous videos, I no longer provide consulting services myself, but if you want referrals or have any specific questions that I'm able to answer, I'm more than happy to provide whatever info that I can. Now, if you found this video helpful, please hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and with all of that in mind, I hope to see you in the next video.